Morning, Kaden. Morning, Cameron. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
So today, I want to jump right into what happened in our Bible story for today, because this story actually confuses me a lot. Okay, so here's what happened. A long time ago, everybody in the world spoke the same language. And so they could understand each other, and they could communicate really well with each other. So a group of people decided to build a city, and in the middle of the city, they wanted to build this tower that would reach way up high. From what the story tells us, they wanted to build this amazing building and this city for a few reasons. So first of all, they had just recently learned how to make big structures with large bricks. So all of the bricks were the same size, so they could build really, really great big buildings. And so they wanted to try to do something new. They wanted to try to build something huge. And so it also sounds like they wanted to build this city with this tower in the middle so that they could all live together and be together instead of being spread all over the world. They all wanted to be centered in one space instead of being spread out. So they wanted to spend time together. And then it also sounds like, from what the story tells us, that the people wanted to become famous for building the world's tallest tower. Have you ever wanted to build the biggest tower you could out of like blocks or things? Yeah, me too.
Like in a game.
Oh, yeah.
I've always wanted to build higher than it lets me.
Right, in games, you always want to build higher than it lets you. Yeah, the people in our story today wanted to do kind of the same thing. They wanted to build the world's tallest tower to show how great they were. Our text says that they wanted to make a name for themselves. So they wanted people to know who they were. And so our story then goes on to tell us that when God saw this city that they were building and this huge tower that they were building, God decides that if the people could do something this impressive, that nothing would be impossible for them. So then our story says, this is where it starts to get confusing for me. See, then our story says that God then confused all of their language so that the people could no longer understand each other. So if they can't understand each other, can they build towers as easily? No. And so it then sounds like that because they could no longer talk to each other or understand each other, that this big project, this big city and this big tower just kind of stopped because they couldn't understand each other. And so because of that, then the people ended up going off and are spreading out all over the world and going off in different directions. So that's the end of our story today. And I don't know about you, but it kind of confuses me because to me, it sounds like on the surface, when you look at this story, it sounds like people were trying to do something amazing by working together, which that's a good thing, right? When we work together, that's a good thing. They were listening to each other. That's a good thing. They were thinking about each other, and they wanted to spend time with one another. They wanted to be together in one city instead of being spread out all over the place. They wanted to be unified. Those all sound like good things, right? So then why would God stop this big project that they had, confuse them, and then separate them, then spread them all throughout the world? I don't know either. So as I was thinking about this text, the only thing that kind of explained maybe why God would do something like this was because of one phrase that was used. And we said it earlier. The people wanted to make a name for themselves. And so they wanted, presumably that means that they kind of wanted to be famous, right? They wanted to be important. And they wanted to prove that they could do the impossible things all by themselves. So maybe it got me thinking that they wanted to be so important and that they were realizing that they could do anything that they wanted to if they worked together, even to the point where they may have begun to believe that they didn't need God anymore. I don't know if that's what happened, but that's the best I can come up with from reading it. And so while I don't know if that even makes complete sense, what I do know is that this is one of those stories in the Bible, there are a lot of them, by the way, that can be kind of confusing. This is one of those stories that leads us to ask a lot of questions. So I don't have all the answers to these questions. Maybe Pastor Tim does, but I don't. And I don't know if Pastor Tim does. He might, but I would maybe even think that most people won't have all the answers to all the questions we might ask. But stories like these are great opportunities for us to hold up. It's kind of like us holding up a mirror. As we read this story, we can hold up a mirror and look at our own lives and ask some hard questions. Like, do we think that we can do things without God? No. Well, that's great, because I think sometimes we all think that we can do things without God. We think we can do things all by ourselves. Maybe we all could also ask some hard questions like, am I trying to do things with the intent or the idea of doing good, but then lose sight of what actually is good in my pursuit of trying to do something good? Or maybe we could ask the question, where in our lives are we becoming too proud of ourselves, our ideas, and our identity that we forget about sharing God's love with other people? Or maybe we could ask the question, what things or ideas in our lives have become our own towers of Babel? That's what this big tower they were building was called, is the Tower of Babel. What things in our lives have become our own Tower of Babel? Our good news today, even with all the questions we might have, is that even when there are a million questions we could ask about the story or stories like it, that these stories are reminders for all of us, including adults like myself, that we don't have all the answers, and that sometimes when we don't have answers, we may need to take a step back and make sure that we're loving God and loving people like other people are the children of God, just like we are. Because that's what the entire story of the Bible's about. It's about the importance of loving God and loving others. And if we're doing those two things, then we know we aren't having our own Tower of Babel situation. So with that, I'd love for you to repeat after me in prayer and invite the congregation to join as well. Dear God, thank you for Jesus. And for stories like the Tower of Babel. That confuse us and lead us to ask questions. Please give us an open spirit. To look at ourselves. As we ask some hard questions. We love you. Amen. All right, thanks for coming up. Now we'll see if Pastor Tim can answer our questions.